Hey everyone, welcome back. It is time once again to take a look at this month's best looking new games, new updates, and expansions for games for the month of October 2024. Let's jump right into it. Kicking things off this month is Diablo 4's first major expansion, Vessel of Hatred. This marks what I would consider a pretty big moment for the game. While Diablo 4 still does certainly have a consistent player base, it's also clearly fallen a bit in popularity since the game released. You know, not too much different from most games post-launch fall-offs, but nevertheless, certainly it is the case that Blizzard would love to have even more people playing the game anywhere near their launch day numbers in the franchise that is basically birthed the ARPG genre. So with this expansion, is there enough to bring the lapsed players back into the game? Well, let's take a look. New content and features coming in Vessel of Hatred include the brand new class Spiritborn, described as this mobile apex predator of the jungle. They use glaives, quarterstaves, and polearms with attacks infused by ancestral spirit guardians. There are 4 spirits in total: the eagle, centipede, jaguar, and gorilla, and each of them grant abilities with different effects, which players can mix and match, choosing what they please. The brand new region is Nahantu. This consists of 6 large separate areas, a mixture of deep jungle, red rock canyons, and underground locations. The playable space of this zone does appear to be slightly larger than the zones from the base game, and then beyond having a visually distinct locations, we'll encounter a handful of new enemy types and the typical assortment of stuff to do: points of interest, dungeons, strongholds, public events, altars, and so on. Mercenaries are making a return. These are AI companions that can aid you in combat. You unlock them as you progress through the campaign, with 4 to pick from: a tank, archer, berserker, and demon mage. Then beyond following alongside and fighting with you, there's this reinforcement system where you can attach any mercenary skill to your skills, that casting them in tandem. Mercs also come with a more fleshed out skill tree in Diablo 4 than what we saw in D3. And finally, there's the Dark Citadel. This is the one big new type of playable content coming in Vessel of Hatred. It's this large co-op endgame dungeon designed for groups of 4. Beyond challenging enemies and boss encounters, there will also be mechanics that require groups, including pressure play puzzles you can't do solo, or boss fights that require coordination from multiple players for certain mechanics. And then beyond that, the expansion includes bringing back of rune words, a little different for Diablo 4 than what was in D2, but still it is a new means of customizing your playstyle. There's a bunch of different builder and spender combinations with effects that trigger that you can pick from. Pets are in the game just like Diablo 3. These will follow you around, vacuuming up resources, currency, and items. And then there's the expected round of balance changes and updates. Along with the expansion comes patch 2.0, which has its own updates like new skills for every class, leveling adjustments, a stat squish, changes to the difficulty system, a Paragon revamp, item adjustments. There's a new party finder in the game and a bunch of quality of life improvements, including, hey, 1 extra stash tab. Very kind of them. And then finally, also with the expansion, they're going to be kicking off a brand new season, the Season of Hatred, which will include some new Mephisto-themed events and rewards. So Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred is launching on October 8th for PC, PlayStation, Xbox. I'm very curious to see how this does. I will for sure be jumping in myself, probably checking out the new class if I don't just play Barbarian and Sorc like I always do, and then trying the new endgame content. Like, I want to see the new forms of things to do, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, I'm sure it's going to be fun for at least one playthrough. I don't know if this is going to propel Diablo 4 into the never-ending replayability that people seem to profess from Path of Exile. It's probably going to be fun for me for like another 50 to 100 hours at the least, which generally I'm fairly satisfied with. All right, next up, we have got today's sponsor, Wayfinder, the dungeon diving co-op action RPG where you collect and play as several distinct characters, adventuring, fighting, and taking on challenging bosses and collecting loot. As you might already know, the game's seen a number of big changes through the course of its early access development, the biggest being it is now a one-price, no in-game microtransactions premium title. Well, they've been trucking along now, and this month it will at long last be getting its full 1.0 release. Beyond the changes over the past year, with 1.0 specifically, there's a bunch of additional new things coming. A brand new playable Wayfinder or class, bringing the total up to 8 to choose from. A 3rd chapter to the main story quest. With this, they are adding a fully fledged brand new open world zone full of side quest collectibles, new monster types, and hours more content. 2 new Lost Zone dungeons with unique events, loot, monsters, and traversal mechanics. These are the repeatable content and gear grind. There's 6 new weapons to collect and awaken, each with a unique weapon ability, new mounts and monster monster types, unique personas, armor sets, skins, and echoes. There have been performance, UI, and quality of life improvements, and they've also announced full PC mod support will be coming before the end of the year. So Wayfinder 1.0 is launching with crossplay on October 21st, first coming to Steam and PlayStation 5, with a release on Xbox Series X and S and the Epic Games Store in the following weeks. Continuing with this month's list, one of the all-time great psychological horror games, Silent Hill 2, is getting a full-blown remake in October. The game has you playing as James Sunderland, returning to Silent Hill, chasing the memories of a deceased wife, only to find the town is abandoned, cloaked in a deep fog, and full of monsters. You must fight for your survival, solve puzzles, and uncover mysteries while searching for traces of your beloved. Key features of the remake include a whole new perspective, with them moving away from the original's fixed camera viewpoints to an over-the-shoulder one, putting you much closer to the action and creating a more immersive experience as you come face to face with monsters. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a bit of a contested change, given the fixed camera of the original game was sort of a staple at the time. Personally, though, I'm happy for like a more modern day approach as a third-person game, basically. Gameplay itself is getting an update, so all the familiar weapons are going to be there. The steel pipe and the handgun, that makes a return, but now with an updated combat system, you can avoid attacks with carefully timed dodges. You can now aim down sights and make use of just many modern day third-person combat mechanics compared to the rather simple combat of the original. They've made the game bigger as well, with larger environments. You can now explore locations and buildings that were previously inaccessible, along with new ones that have been added solely for the remake. They have said the narrative and story is staying the same, but you're just going to have a much larger space to explore while you're going through that. And as you can probably see here, the game's visuals got an upgrade with modern day graphics, better textures, lighting, and animations. They've also done a full pass on the music and sounds, creating a more unsettling ambiance to the whole thing. The Silent Hill 2 remake launches on October 8th as well, coming to PC, PlayStation consoles. As of now, no Xbox release has been confirmed. We're guessing though maybe next year at some point, we'll see. Amazon is taking one more stab, hoping to revive their flagship MMO with the release of New World Aeternum this month. Now, for clarity, because I think the marketing on this has been a bit confusing, I've seen people expressing confusion. This isn't a new game. It's rather an update and a rebranding of New World. So with Aeternum, New World is getting a handful of changes. There are some systems and zone revamps, and there is a bit of new content. But the real big thing here is that for the first time, the game will now be available and playable on consoles. But if you play New World during its original PC release, this is very much so the same basic experience. There are a few new twists. There is some new stuff, some quality of life improvements and additions, but it's not a massive content expansion. It's more like a retooling with a little bit of content, some changes, and if you just played at launch, there is more content in the game that you would have missed out on with the Angry Earth update. Okay, so with that settled, they had an open beta for Aeternum last month. I played it, and frankly, I had a pretty good time. At the very least, this reminded me what I enjoyed about the game the first time around, those being the exploration, the immersive world, the gathering and crafting systems. Not everyone likes it, but I enjoy the combat for as simple as it is, and I really like how they structured the world where you can get these occasional bouts of PvP if you're flagged for it. I do still think New World has a pretty short shelf life when we're considering it an MMO, but it's a short experience that I tend to enjoy for what it is, sort of like with Diablo 4. I'm happy to give it another go this month, essentially. So what exactly is new in Aeternum? Well, there's a new intro experience that got an overhaul. You first start off by selecting an archetype, which wasn't there before. This basically determines your 2 starting weapons, as well as which 3 trade skills you want boosted. Then you play through an entirely new tutorial. It teaches the same basics of the game, but just in new areas with new cutscenes. The zone, Cutlass Keys, has changed a lot. So this zone was in the base game, but it's been revamped. It's now an end game zone, got leveled up to max with some new areas and content to discover. Also, about half the zone is full on open world, no group PvP. It's free for all, every person for themselves. The zone is also filled with high yield resources and rewards a new currency that you can exchange for high value gear. And then the other half of the zone is your typical PvE experience, and it includes a brand new end game activity. That is the new 10-person raid, which Amazon says will offer a quote true sense of challenge and progression. It features 3 distinct bosses, each more difficult of an encounter than the last, requiring coordination of your group. The raid is also going to be one of the 2 sources of the new highest level gear. And then they've added these soloable endgame contents via the soul trials. These are like boss fights you can do. They are solo boss fights. You'll come across them while you're doing the main story quest, and then at max level, you're given high-end versions of these encounters, and you can do 3 of them a day. Presumably, these will give some worthwhile currency and or resources. Some other changes include, there've been some updates and improvements to combat. They have added a target lock to go with the console launch and people playing on a gamepad, but this has been a pretty highly contentious issue with it coming to PC as well because the game is crossplay. Swimming is now in the game. There are new items, weapons, and artifacts. There's a new cinematic camera during quest dialogue. They've made movement and performance improvements. Both of these were very noticeable and great just improvements to the game. The character movement feels better, and from what I could tell, the game's performance was better as well. So New World Aeternum is releasing on October 15th for PC, and as mentioned, it is now going to be available for the first time on consoles. I will definitely be jumping in myself, especially since I never checked out the Angry Earth update. There's just a whole bunch of content in this game that wasn't there at launch that I haven't really seen yet, and I expect I'll be playing for at least a week, maybe 2. We'll see if it lasts any longer than that, but if nothing else, I'll consider this one final send-off for New World. All right, next up on our list is No More Room in Hell 2. This is essentially an extraction game, but rather than having a PvP focus, it is full co-op, with the major challenge being the fact that you are surrounded by these hordes of extremely deadly zombies. So you've got these massive maps on a variety of locations. They're going to be launching with one in early access, but there will be multiple maps in the future, all of them loaded to the brim with enemies. You're dropped in with the typical extraction objectives of navigating the environment in search of loot and trying to escape alive. Making that harder, though, is the fact that all 8 players in each lobby are dropped in, spread across the map, far away from each other. So you all have to sneak around, fight when you have to, and just try to survive long enough in order to group up. And then, before you can actually escape, you've got various objectives to complete, all of them located in the most dangerous parts of the map, and that's where that coordination requirement comes in. If you mess up, if you find yourself outnumbered, or just for whatever reason happen to die, that is the end of the round for you and the end of your character. So that is the basic premise, and to me, this game is sounding pretty cool. They'll be launching, like I said, into early access, starting with the power plant map. It's going to be, according to them, a massive map set on the outskirts of rural Pennsylvania. You'll start with nothing but the ability to melee, and then must scavenge to gather new weapons and equipment. In your search, you'll be listening for, as well as using the game's proximity chat to help find your other squad mates, which then allows you to push further into the map where the difficulty ramps up, and that's also where you have to go to complete the objectives required for you to actually extract. So if you survive and you get out alive, you will keep your character and everything you collected. Looting supplies will level you up, and then with every run, it improves your odds of survival with access to equipment caches and stronger starting gear, making you stronger in the next run. But as mentioned, if you die at any point, that's gone. For your character is done. You have to start over because they do have character permadeath. They are calling this game co-op with consequences and a promise that it will not be easy. They say that even one zombie by itself is a threat, and a crowd of zombies without question will tear you apart. The undead can see you, they can also hear you, they can hear each other, so making too much noise can just quickly draw in a horde of enemies, and then that's probably it for you. There's also going to be multiple zombie types to contend with beyond like the basic ones that lumber towards you. They'll be tankier and deadlier specialists. And besides sneaking around, there are various distraction and environmental tools you can have at your disposal, like you can set off car alarms or lure zombies into various types of traps. I think this all sounds fantastic. It was also a pleasant surprise for me to learn that the game is being developed by Torn Banner Studios. This is the team who made one of my all-time favorite medieval combat games, that is the Chivalry series. If the amount of fun that I had with those games is any indication, I've got very high hopes for this one. No More Room in Hell 2 is coming to Steam Early Access on October 22nd. Really looking forward to that. All right, so that is everything I'm mostly looking forward to playing this month, but of course we've got plenty of honorable mentions, other games that I think y'all might be interested in. Starting with Throne and Liberty. Oh boy. All right, so the game is officially launched launching on October 1st. This is, if you don't know, a brand new free-to-play PvP-focused MMO from NCSoft. So the game already launched last year in Korea, and well, that didn't go very well, to the point where the company told investors in their quarterly earnings report that the game was a complete financial failure, and they were shifting all of their energy and focus into the global release. Well, that global release is now upon us. In fact, if you spent money for early access, it has been playable since last Thursday. So the game has already, up until the point of this recording, has peaked at over 50,000 concurrent players, and it's likely, I presume, to see even higher numbers when it's actually available for free on the quote official launch on October 1st. But that said, it also right now at the same time sits at a mixed rating, hovering as of this recording around a 60%, which isn't particularly great. And you know, I would say that mixed pretty much sums up how I feel about this game, which is why it wasn't in that top main portion of my list. You know, I was really expecting to be hyped for the release of this because it's a new MMO. I love the genre, and the launch window tends to be some of the most fun times with these games. You got the servers packed, everyone's learning together, leveling up to max, running dungeons, doing PvP, which is going to be a big focus in this game. But I gotta say, after playing the open beta and spending nearly a full week with Throne and Liberty, I saw enough to know I just don't very much enjoy the game, and that is really disappointing to say, especially because there's a lot that I think Throne and Liberty does pretty well. Enough well that without question, it's gonna have an audience of hardcore fans. Like, I am certain there are gonna be people who love Throne and Liberty, super into it, and play it for many, many months to come. And despite my impressions following playing in the beta, I will also give it another go. I'm waiting for the free-to-play launch. I'm really not keen on giving them money for a game that I'm already pretty sure I don't like, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. It has been said that they've made some improvements to combat, that they've added more content, and that they've addressed at least some of what I didn't like about the beta, but still, I don't know if it's going to be the game for me, but you might love it, so check it out. Free-to-play launch on October 1st, Throne and Liberty. There you go, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Atlus, the development studio who created Personas 3, 4, and 5, have a new game coming out, Metaphor ReFantazio. Taking place in this rather unique-looking fantasy world, you will journey alongside various companions, attempting to lift a curse on your kingdom. The game looks to blend open-world exploration with a character-driven story and modern twist on turn-based combat. You'll go on quests, dungeon dive, and hunt for treasure, while also building relationships, creating bonds, and forming a party of adventurers. There's a big expansive world to explore, full of beautiful landscapes, dangerous camps, and distant towns to discover. And yeah, it's got this unique combat system that combines both turn-based as well as real-time action combat. The whole thing has this hyper-stylized look as well, very, very distinct. Don't think it's my kind of a game, but definitely seems interesting, and I know people are looking forward to it. Metaphor ReFantazio launches on October 11th, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. The next yearly installment of Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, will be launching on October 25th. Their pitch for the game this time around states that this is a spy action thriller set in the early 90s, a period of transition and upheaval in global politics characterized by the end of the Cold War and the rise of the US as a single superpower. Some key highlights this time around include a single-player campaign that features dynamic moment-to-moment gameplay that includes a variety of play spaces with blockbuster set pieces and action-packed moments, as well as high-stakes heist and cloak and dagger spy activity. The multiplayer, you'll be able to test your skills across 16 new maps with 12 core 6v6 maps and 4 strike maps that can be played 2v2 or 6v6, and they're marking the return of round-based zombies, where you'll take down hordes of undead in 2 brand new maps at release. It is Call of Duty. By now, you already know if you're interested in playing the next year's Call of Duty. Black Ops 6 launches everywhere on October 25th. Hey, BioWare is back, or at least they're trying to be, with the return of their single-player fantasy RPG series with Dragon Age: The Veilguard. The campaign sees you playing as Rook, fighting back these corrupt elven gods who threaten the lands. You're going to explore a variety of environments in this vivid fantasy world with imaginative new locations, battling larger-than-life foes from Darkspawn to demons, dragons, and more, and forming a team from a roster of 7 companions with their own personalities, backstories, and combat potential. And the game promises to be a deep fantasy RPG. None of the gameplay that I've seen so far has really sold me on this one, although I have heard fairly positive things from some hands-on impressions, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'll certainly be giving it a look because, hey, I really like RPGs, and also, for better or worse, I imagine this is a pretty big moment for BioWare. The last new game that they released was Anthem after all, and that didn't exactly go so well, so I gather a lot hinges on Dragon Age: The Veilguard, so I'm very curious to see how it turns out. Dragon Age: The Veilguard launches on October 31st, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. All right, we got a few playtests I want you to know about. First up, Arc Raiders, the 70s-inspired sci-fi third-person shooter extraction game, has a closed beta test running from October 24th to the 27th. You can register to be invited right on the Steam page. It has changed quite a lot. This was originally a co-op looter shooter. I would have liked that, but I also enjoy extraction games, and I think this looks gorgeous, so still keen to check this out. Alpha 2 for Ashes of Creation. Finally, it's happening, kicking off on October 25th. That is if you're willing to cough up the $120 for that first wave bundle. $110 gets you access in December, $100 next May. Of course, they priced it this way because, hey, why wouldn't you spend an extra $20 to start in October instead of 8 months from now? Genius marketing, guys. Regardless, now is the time the rubber meets the road. This test is going to be NDA free. We're going to see and hear everything about it. I am playing it. They're saying it's going to be staying up for a year, starting with periodic test and then going full 24/7. We will likely know very soon if Ashes of Creation is going to live up to the hype of saving the MMO genre. That's what has been professed. Finally, Fragpunk is an upcoming 5 vs 5 hero shooter. Oh no, not again, not this again. We will see if this one can outperform Conquered. Won't really take that much. There is a beta test for the game running on October 10th to the 21st. You can register for access on the Steam page. And with that, we will wrap up this month's list. Man, gotta say, gonna be pretty busy this month. I am absolutely 100% for sure gonna be playing Diablo 4, New World, No More Room in Hell 2, the Arc Raiders beta, as well as Ashes of Creation. I would love, and I'm gonna try to also make time for Silent Hill 2 as well as Dragon Age. As for Throne and Liberty, I think it's really just gonna depend on how much free time I get, which sounds like I'm not gonna have too much, but if I can squeeze it in, I will. I'm so disappointed. It's a new MMO release, but man, that beta, I just really came away with a sour taste in my mouth. But maybe they'll turn things around. We will see what happens. Either way, I'm not complaining. I got a lot of games to play this month, and a lot of them I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, there you go. What's on your list? Let me know what you guys are looking forward to. If there's anything I missed that you're keen on, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See y'all next time.